Day 2 of week number 10 brought us 4 matchups where we'd see if Heretics had what it takes to get over Denial to supplant themselves as being a top 3 team in Division B. Elevate and eUnited would go at one another looking for a little bit of revenge from the last time we saw these two teams face up. Enigma 6, who have 3 of their 4 games up until now, have gone to game 5. Would that happen again? And then a pivotal matchup between Envy and Splyce for the 4th place spot in Division B. That and predictions for day 3 coming right up. Well, you heard it there. Welcome back, Call of Duty fans. Ready to go back with you. I'm IHOLDSHIFT, giving you guys the recap on what happened in day 2, setting up day 3. And massive shout outs to He Is Camping on Twitter for hitting me up with a really awesome bet website that'll keep me going with all of our spread bets and all the bet advice that you guys will want for games in the future. Let's go ahead and dig into what happened, though, on our games today for day 2 before we get too far into talking about day number 3. Starting off with Denial versus the Heretics. A very good set between these two teams. Denial looking for a way to really kind of battle back after they did not really end their week the way they wanted to. Only 2-2, but of course having lost to both 100 Thieves and Elevate, they thought they could go 4-0. They would come out this time around and try to go up against Heretics, who'd start things off. Unfortunately, for Denial, it would be Gridlock, which I believe was actually Denial's map choice for their hard point. They've looked pretty okay here, but not really to much avail. This game would not go their way either, a 250 to 130 start, but for Denial, they would bounce back with the next 2 maps decidedly going in their favor. Again, this team had looked very decent at Search and Destroy at London and have done a better job. They went 3-2 in their first week back into the regular season, and they would take it to Arsenal for the first point, and Denial would have no problems here. They're actually now, this roster, 3-0 in Search and Destroy on Arsenal, a good start there. And then Control, we would stay on Arsenal, and once again, this team of Denial has improved vastly in the Control game. They would have no problem with Heretics on Arsenal Control, a 3-1. But then from there on out, Heretics, they would show how strong they are on certain maps. Specifically, if you give them the opportunity to go to Hacienda, they will go there. And that's where our last 2 maps would be played. 250 to 165 and then a 6-2. Both on Hacienda for the hardpoint and the Search and Destroy. Heretics survived this one in a 3-2 fashion. That is the second 3-2 win this team has had in a row. They will have a very tough day coming up tomorrow where they'll be playing up against Splice. We'll talk more about that one later. Jumping ahead though, Elevate and eUnited. This was another really solid set as well, as again, Elevate has looked very good in the hardpoint specifically. eUnited, not their best mode in the respawn. Their hardpoint specifically has been okay, but they have been playing it better lately. Here though, against eUnited, of course, Elevate looking to make a statement as they were not quite able to close things out versus Heretics yesterday on day 1. So for day 2, they would come out and it would start off hot for Elevate, a 250 to 239 win, a very back and forth battle. That was on frequency, but Elevate would refuse to go away, and eUnited just could not hang with them near the later parts of that game. Very close set, but Elevate would find the win. Next to the Search and Destroy would go to Gridlock. Again, this is where eUnited is incredible, and goodness me, if it wasn't already a 5-3 at one point in time for Elevate, looking to close things out against eUnited, who would then just hit the gas pedal and not slow up, winning 3 straight, and they would take it 6-5. But scary moments as Elevate was almost about to go up 2-0 in the set. So then to the Control, this is about what we would expect. Again, kind of information that we've been hearing from the desk is that Elevate did not really practice their Control at all. That would showcase here a 3-0 versus eUnited on the C-side Control. And then we go back to Hardpoint. So again, eUnited now up 2-1. Hardpoint, again, an area that eUnited has struggled a touch, although a lot of their losses have been close losses above 200 points for them. That would actually continue here as we'd go to Arsenal, and Elevate would be able to put together about 3 different hardpoints in a row a couple different times, forcing eUnited to fight from the back foot. They were not quite able to surmount the gap that was built by Elevate, a 250 to 218 win. And then we go to the next search, and eUnited would have no problem, a 6-1 on payload. But goodness me, if Elevate did not show up and put out quite a performance, showcasing that this is a very real threat in the hardpoint division, with some moments that they could potentially be decent at Search and Destroy. It just comes down to, are they at the level that eUnited is? Obviously not quite yet. That loss today, they would now be sitting at a total of 5-5 in the search and destroy of their last 10. All those 10 matches have been played in this second reboot of our Division B, which means that they have gone to Game 5 every single game but one. 3-2, 3-1, 3-2, 2-3, 2-3. Elevate is getting the reps. Be careful of this team. They're absolutely going to be one to consider a major threat going forward. 100 Thieves going up against Enigma 6. And again, if last time Enigma 6 played, it was up against Elevate, a 2-3 loss there. Heretics, a 3-2 win. And eUnited, a 2-3 loss. We said at the very beginning of week number 9 that Division B is wild. There are no for sure wins or losses in Division B. And I think we're starting to see that even the teams that are down there in the bottom are able to take our top teams to 5 games. Here versus 100 Thieves, we would see it go 5 actually again for the 4th time in a row for Enigma 6. We'd start things off on Hardpoint. That was played on Frequency, and you got to be careful playing up against 100 Thieves anywhere, but Enigma 6 would not go away in this one either, fighting back and forth, tooth and nail with 100 Thieves, just not quite able to close out the first map, a 219 to 250. Fast forward to the search and destroy. Again, this is an area that Enigma 6 has been decent at, and 100 Thieves has been a little bit lackluster. We'd go to Gridlock, where both teams did not have the greatest of win-loss ratios, but Enigma 6, this was their pick. They found a 6-4 win here versus Heretics last week. They would find a 6-3 convincing win versus 100 Thieves this time around. So to the control, again, 100 Thieves, if you remember back to yesterday and day number 1, they lost the control pretty convincingly to eUnited, a 1-3 loss. We'd go back to where they lost their last hard control on Arsenal. This time, though, Enigma 6 not quite up to the task. A number of very close rounds. A clutch moment near the end of our first round as 100 Thieves was down lives, but were able to take the last bit of checkpoint A, which allowed 100 Thieves to really get going in this one, and they would not slow down. A 3-1, but then Enigma 6 on the rebound. The hard point played on Seaside. It came down to the Fountain Hill. Why would it not? It always does. A very back and forth battle. Enigma 6, though, only needing about 20 points. They would find a couple of scraps on the courtyard, and then they would rotate very quickly and very early in the rotation because 100 Thieves was not able to win off the courtyard. It was very close to being there, but not quite enough, as Enigma 6 would just lock down the Fountain. All the streaks that Priest at one point in time had were wasted. Not able to use that for the break on Fountain, so Enigma 6 would hold it, a 250 to 230 win. This Enigma 6 team is scary. We would go to our final search and destroy. It would once again be on payload, and Enigma 6, they have not been great here. This would be a 3-5 map win-loss ratio for this team over their history. We would make that a 3-6, as 100 Thieves would win this one out pretty convincingly 6-2, but it is important to know a number of those rounds were relatively close. So, again, it was in a ballpark where Enigma 6 can fight with these guys. This is eUnited they've taken to 5. 100 Thieves they've taken to 5. A very close set versus Splyce. They will get their go tomorrow as they'll be playing up against Team Envy, who is our next team up to talk about as they would finish the day off versus Splyce. This one was the battle for who would take control of the 4th spot in Division B. And again, Splyce with NOLSON on board. The first time we've seen him play, he actually flew in last night, so not even getting that much time with the team whatsoever. He played extremely well, but more importantly, the rest of the team of Splyce looked like they were finally clicking, and Splyce would not have much issue with this set. They would lose the first hard point 215 to 250. That was on Frequency, a map that they've gone to very often, but Envy, this is one of their better hard point maps, so they would be able to find a way to win that one out. But then from there, Splyce just took over. It would be a 6-2 on the search and destroy, a 3-0, quick 3-0 on the control, and then a 250 to 95. This Splyce team is looking absolutely for real. So let's go ahead and take a look at Wednesday and what we have coming up. Elevate versus 100 Thieves. Not a match you want to sleep on. Again, Elevate, very good at the hard point, okay at the search and destroy, worrisome a little bit in the control. Kind of the same story for 100 Thieves, but not really. Obviously great at the hard point, not so great at the search and destroy, and typically pretty good, and one of the better teams, actually, to be frank, when it comes to the control. So this one, do not miss the 3 o'clock call time for this one, Eastern time, because this is going to be a really good set, I think, and there's definitely upset potential with Elevate, simply because the map and mode combinations are very similar for both of these teams going back and forth. A lot of Arsenal and a lot of Frequencies been played for Elevate. 100 Thieves, of course, we know their track record on Arsenal. They also have been playing a lot of Hacienda and Gridlock. So it's very possible that we'll see one team get their pick, the other team get their other pick. So it could go very back and forth in the hard point. It just comes down to me of who shows up in the control and who is actually there to play in the search and destroy. Going forward, eUnited will be going up against Denial. Not another game you want to be sleeping on whatsoever. eUnited looking very vulnerable, not only here versus Elevate, but also in previous days from the week before. Of course, remember they went to 5 with Enigma 6. They also had a close call when it came down to the set versus Envy and Splyce. So this has not been an easy week for eUnited by any stretch of the imagination. Going into Denial, this is a team that has not been superb when it comes down to their hard point. When they win, they usually win rather convincingly. When they usually lose rather convincingly. My biggest thing is that this Denial team has shown some mettle in the search and destroy. Their losses have been very narrow losses, a 5-6 and a 4-6, with the exception of the one today versus the Heretics on Hacienda, where they went 2-6. And then the control has been pretty decent. So there's possible even matchups here in both the hardpoint mode and control. The respawn as a whole, I think, is a pretty even battle between both of these teams. It just comes down to who will actually clutch up and really show up. We'll talk more about that one a little bit later in our bookies breakdown. Heretics going up against Splyce. Who knows about this set? Heretics looked good today versus Denial, I think, generally speaking, especially in the hard point. Yes, you would have loved to have seen them do better in the control. In fact, their control lately has been atrocious. They've lost the last 7 controls straight. Not what you want to see. For Splyce, though, obviously having a lot of success. The 3-0-1 controls, great to see. NOLSON playing hot is great to see. Jerd having monumental moments. Temp having insane moments. Means that this team really is starting to click. And maybe it was just accuracy that was causing the issue. You had to think that maybe that wasn't just the one thing they wanted to do, but if this team keeps clicking like this, it could be all steam ahead. Going forward, though, Enigma 6 taking on Envy for our last set of the day. And honestly, it's been a tough run for Enigma 6. They've played everybody very close, just not quite able to capitalize. Honestly, this is the best chance this team has at a win to kind of get them to finish off their week on a high note. Envy, again, is such a wild card. I mean, after playing eUnited and 100 Thieves so close, I thought for sure they wouldn't have an issue with Splyce. Goodness was I wrong. Envy looked absolutely terrible today. Again, kind of continuing on the trend of, hey, we're good today. Oh, we suck the next. I don't really understand what's going on with this Envy squad and where the issues seem to be lying, but it was a rough one today. I mean, honestly, this very well could have been a 3-0 for Splyce against Team Envy. But for Enigma 6, you're looking at this one maybe the other way around. There's potential that 100 Thieves could have lost to Enigma 6 today. There was potential that Elevate should have lost to Enigma 6. And then again, back to eUnited. There is potential that eUnited could have lost to Enigma 6. So keep your eye on the last one. This is going to be a really good game. Actually, all 4 of these games are going to be really good. Let's go ahead and get into some of the betting predictions on our bookie's worst nightmare to give you guys the official call of what I think the predictions will be and what might be valuable for you to consider betting on. Again, betting is just for entertainment. If you think you have an issue betting, please do not hesitate to call and ask for some support because it can be very, very dangerous, especially in the volatile world of Call of Duty. It is all for fun after all. Let's go ahead and take a look. Elevate versus 100 Thieves, the first game up. You take a look at it. It is a plus 230, the underdogs for Elevate, at a plus 1.5. At plus 120 is what some places are calling for the spread bet there. And you can see their records in the last 10. My biggest question mark comes down to the search and destroy and the control. Yes, 100 Thieves is 8-2 compared to Elevate's 5-5. But honestly, that's not one to sniff away at because Elevate has played all of their games close, including a couple of close losses. Personally, I've got this one going 3-2 in favor of 100 Thieves, but that spread bet at plus 120 I think is a pretty good one, honestly. I don't know if 100 Thieves really has it in them to find a 3-1 against a team that's looking to take down a big giant, as they've been very close but not quite able to get there yet. So this is the best chance that Elevate has to really cement themselves as potentially being a consideration for top 4. It's a little bit of a stretch now as they're a couple of games back from getting into the top 4 places of Division B, but if they were to do it, they would have to beat 100 Thieves first, and I think they have an opportunity to be a potential underdog win here. I think for sure they can take 2 games, so that plus 120 is not a bad bet whatsoever. Our second set of the day, Denial going up against eUnited. I know there's been a lot of love for Denial lately, but personally in this head-to-head matchup, I just don't see it happening. eUnited is, again, a team that's been very back and forth on the hard point, but personally, I like their map pool better than Denial's, who's been a little bit of a 2-trick pony, only really playing 2 specific maps. The Search and Destroy is not even close, and the Control, not that close. Personally, I've got this one going 3-0. Minus 500, the vast favorites rather for eUnited, and a minus 189 for them to 3-0 or 3-1. Neither of those are good to go for you. I just don't see Denial winning 2 maps here. I'm sorry to say it, let alone maybe even 1. So I've got this one going in favor of eUnited. I would typically say this is a good parlay option, but The games in the back half of the day are not easy to predict whatsoever, as we'll jump on forward to Heretics taking on Splyce. I was impressed by what I saw from Splyce. I was impressed. NOLSON looked great. Temp looked incredible with the Maddox. And honestly, even though the hard point looks like it's so vastly in favor of Heretics, I would not be surprised to see Splyce be able to take a number of the respawns. This is a very even matchup. All of their map pools are relatively similar. They should be going on the ground that they're pretty comfortable with and pretty familiar with. It just comes down to how well NOLSON fits into the prize. Plus 100, an even line for Heretics to win as the underdog. Minus 227 for them to find the 2-map spread. On the other side, I'm seeing minus 110 for Splyce as the favorites at plus 162. Honestly, stay away from betting this one completely. I've got this one predicted to go a 3-2 in favor of Splyce. None of those lines are good to even remotely attempt to bet on. And honestly, this could go one way or the other. I just don't feel confident that either team will find a 3-1. So none of those spread bets or win-losses, win-match lines look all that great. And to be fair, the 3-2, even the minus 110 does not feel so great for Splyce. So tough one there. I would stay away from that one personally just to enjoy the show because it's going to be a fun one to watch. Then the last set of the day, Enigma 6 taking on Team Envy. And again, Team Envy is such a wild card. It's so hard to predict what you're going to get from this team. The biggest thing that I saw today, though, was that Enigma 6 up front is ready to play at the same level that Hugh can Decimate are. Personally, at the plus 175, that is a huge line that I think Enigma 6, you should probably try to hit that just for the simple fact that it's a plus 175. Minus 222 is what I'm seeing for Envy as the favorites. Plus 100 for them to go 3-1. Minus 139 on the spread for Enigma 6. Take that spread bet. I've got this one going 3-2 in favor of Enigma 6. Again, based on map pool and presence that we've seen so far from both of these teams, Enigma 6 looks like they can hang. My biggest worry is them in the control, but personally, I think that Envy has looked just as bad. Keep in mind, this Envy team has not won a search and destroy now in 6 days of actual gameplay. They've gone a total of 7. They've gone 0-7. Dating back to London, they have not won a single search and destroy yet in the Division B reprise here in either Week 9 or Week 10, where Enigma 6 has looked much better in that time. Although not the greatest, they've looked much better still because they've won at least 3 of their maps. So personally, I've got this one going 3-2, favoring Enigma 6. I think that they can take one, if not both, of the search and destroys and at least one of the hard points. And we know how Team Envy are when it comes to Game 5s. They do not clutch up in Game 5s. Hardly ever. So that's personally what I got. Gonna skip the scorecard for you guys and end this video, wrap it up. Coming up next, though, of course, we'll be having a day 3 recap, more power rankings at the end of the week after we get through day number 4, and of course come back, hit that sub button, and ring the notification bell when these videos do pop up if you want to get more predictions and some knowledge in on the betting lines. I've been Shift, you've been you. That's been the recap. Until next time, hope you keep holding it down. Later, bye-bye.